Download the latest version of GZDoom, which at time of recording is 4.2.4a. Once you've got that downloaded, extract the zip file, open up the newly created GZDoom directory, and drag and drop any Doom mods you might want to play into it. Then open up your gzdoom.exe. Really quick, just for the sake of this video, I'm going to turn sounds way down so it's not so freaking loud. I'm also going to load it to a level so it's easier to see what happens when I change options. Alright, in options, starting from the top with customized controls, under action, you're going to want to go ahead and delete all of the default key bindings. The only one I usually leave up is show scoreboard there. Starting from the top, the only buttons you need to rebind are fire, secondary fire, weapon reload, use open, move forward, backwards, strafe left and right, jump, crouch, and run. Everything else is redundant or made obsolete by mouse look. Speaking of which, into mouse options. I like to change the cursor to the system cursor, just makes it easier to see against the background. I have a high DPI mouse, so I switch my mouse sensitivity to 5, and always mouse look turn on. This is important. Turn always mouse look on. It makes you use the mouse. Under player setup, change your player name. I'd like to turn auto aim all the way off. Whoops. Switch on pickup, that's weapon switch on pickup. Turn that off. Always run, turn on. Under HUD options, go into scaling options. Turn messages up to 3 or 4 depending on your resolution. At 1080p, I think 3 or 4 is pretty good. At 4K, you might even need to turn it up higher to see console messages properly. Status bar, scale to full screen, same thing with full screen HUD, scale to full screen, and HUD preserves aspect ratio, turn that on. Then under HUD options again, I like to turn menu dim all the way off. Down to display options. Screen size, I usually leave it 10, especially if I'm playing custom mods, because the WOD authors usually change the HUD at the bottom there, makes the game a bit more immersive. For the sake of the video for now, I'm going to turn that up to 11. I'll get into fuzz effect in a minute, turn lost soul translucency all the way up to 1. Rocket trails, change that to sprites and particles, same with blood type and bullet puff type. Now number of decals and particles you can turn all the way up if you have a really powerhouse system. If you're noticing performance issues, especially after killing a lot of enemies, you're going to want to turn those all the way down. Back up to hardware renderer. Sector light mode, dark and software are the closest to the authentic original Doom experience you can get. If you notice it's too dark, or especially if you're playing custom mods that are too dark to see properly, try turning that to standard or even bright. Fog mode, switch to radial. Adjust sprite clipping to smarter, smooth sprite edges on. Fuzz style, I like to turn that to smooth noise, and again I'll get into that in more detail in just a moment. And rendering quality, switch to quality. Menu blur, I like to turn all the way off, and again, if you're running at resolutions higher than 1080p and you have a really powerhouse system, try turning multi-sampling on. It goes all the way up to 32x. This is the single biggest performance impacting option there is under graphics, so if you do turn it on and you notice performance issues, this should be the first option you turn down or off. Then back up to post-processing. Bloom effect on, lens distortion on, ambient occlusion quality up to high, portals with AO to 0, FXA quality to extreme, and dither output up to 12 BPC. Back out, and back out again, and then down to texture options. Texture filter mode should be at none, antiscopic filter 16x, enable high-res textures yes. High-res quality resize mode, I prefer XBRZ at 2x. I find it preserves the old school kind of blocky look while still rounding some edges and giving it a bit more of a modern feel. You feel free to play around with that one though, just know that turning it up obviously uses more memory. Resize textures, sprites, and fonts all on. Precast GL textures yes. If you have a low video memory, you might not want to turn this one on. And sort draw lists by texture, no. Back out and then down to dynamic light options. Make sure everything's on, notably shadow maps, shadow map quality up to 1024, and shadow map filter up to PCF high. As for the fuzz effect, the fuzz effect has to do with specters and the invisibility power-up that specters drop. So there's three main effects: fuzz, which has the alternate options; shadow, which is the default, or original, I should say, option for specters; and translucent, which looks kind of cool. If you use fuzz, under hardware renderer, it has more options down to fuzz style. I'll just quickly go through those there so you can kind of get an idea of what they do. I prefer smooth noise because it is the hardest to see, which makes specters that much spookier. After that, we can quit out and download Brutal Doom. Again, I will have links to everything I'm downloading here in the video description. So once you've downloaded Brutal Doom, open up the zip, and the only file you really need is the brutal v21.pk3 file. At this point, it's a good time to also load in any other texture mods or music mods you might have. In the GZDoom directory, create a new folder and call it skins, S-K-I-N-S. Anything in this directory will be auto-loaded by GZDoom every time you load it up. I really like Metal Doom Volume 5. If you don't have it, you should get it. It's the best, and you're dumb for not using it. Now to start up Brutal Doom, grab that PK3 we just downloaded and just drag it on to GZDoom.exe. Again, I'm just going to quickly load into a level. And now into options, customize controls. Notice we've got a bunch of new controls here, most notably flashlight. This is a very important thing to bind. You want to have a flashlight bound to a key. Doesn't matter what key, as long as it's accessible. Roll left and roll right aren't entirely necessary, but if you want the full Brutal Doom experience, they're pretty fun to use. And then back out to the main menu, and in Brutal Doom options, under Brutal Doom performance options, you want to make sure you select the engine, change that to single player, unless you're actually playing multiplayer, which you shouldn't be. If you want to play multiplayer Doom, I recommend Zandronium with Doom Seeker. It's a way better online experience, even though it doesn't look as good because it doesn't have all the features of modern GZDoom. Max wall decals, gibs, and blood pools, you can turn these up. Again, if you have a powerhouse system, unless you're playing really big open maps, you won't really notice it that much, so I leave that by default. If you notice your game slowing down after killing a lot of enemies, these are the first two options you should try turning down. For blood amount, I like to turn it up to lots. I find anything more than that, pretty much all you can see is red whenever you're shooting an enemy. Again, that's kind of situational. If you're playing a big open map, it's kind of fun to turn it up to comical just to see crap fly everywhere. That's personal preference, but I leave it at lots, and I find that's the best, at least for me. Under Brutal Doom gameplay options, if you play hardcore mode at all, and like using the rocket launcher, you're going to want to turn rocket launcher backblast off. What it does is whenever you fire a rocket, it creates a backblast behind you, which can injure enemies, but if you're close to a wall, that damage will splash back, and if you're playing on a hardcore mode, 9 times out of 10, it's just going to kill you instantly, and it sucks and makes the rocket launcher almost unusable, so I don't recommend it. And that's about it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment below if you like this content and want to see more like it. Don't forget to follow me on my other social media platforms. I got Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Tinder, Grindr, Nexopia, Reddit, MySpace, LiveJournal, Google+, Blogspot, DeviantArt, FetLife, and Flickr. Also check out my Twitch page, twitch.tv/thechunks, for anime news, games, movies, reviews, and other dumb, boring crap that nobody should be interested in. My Patreon page for exclusive subscriber content. My Etsy shop for stupid knickknacks that you can put in your home. My Amazon wishlist if you're feeling generous. Big shout out to computers for making this video possible, and a big thank you to the internet. If you can't get a hold of me through the comments, you can always try my email or text or call my personal cell phone, or you can write to me in person at Chunks at 2900 West Alameda Avenue, Suite 800, Burbank, California 91505. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in hell.